It is 21 minutes past 6 on 7:02. Thank you so much for tuning in to the show this morning. If you want to get out and help your fellow Sydney-siders on the weekend, there's a few different things you might want to get involved in. At Manly Beach, the Melanoma March is on. Many people don't realise that melanoma is a young person's cancer. In fact, it affects many 15 to 44-year-olds. Well, the Melanoma March, melanomamarch.com.au, 9 o'clock start, Lagoon Park, Pittwater Road, Queenscliff, from this Sunday. And also this Saturday, the 24th, from 8 till 3 at Sydney Olympic Park Aquatic Centre, the Jump In and Swim Splash for Cash Swimathon. We've talked to James Pihar about this in years previous. It's on this Saturday from 8 till 3 at Sydney Olympic Park. On Sunday, I'll be out at Balmoral Beach braving the treacherous conditions again for the 1 kilometre ocean swim. It's very calm at Balmoral. It's quite treacherous if you're as bad at ocean swimming as I am. But have to get out there and give it a go, because we're raising money for the Children's Cancer Institute of Australia. Got a couple of guests with me this morning. First of all, Jack Cassis, who's been with the Institute from back before it was even an institute. It was established as the Children's Leukemia and Cancer Foundation back in 1976. Jack's on the line. Good morning to you, Jack. How are you?
Oh, good morning, Adam.
And I'm also joined by Professor Michelle Haber, the Executive Director of the Children's Cancer Institute of Australia. Good morning to you, Professor.
Good morning, Adam.
Now, Jack, take us back to 1975. Your daughter Helen was quite ill.
Yes, that's right, Adam. I'm sure the story I'm about to tell you is a very familiar story to many, many families across Australia who are living a normal, comfortable life. We lived in a town called Childers in Queensland, and overnight and without warning, we were advised that our daughter Helen had leukemia, and we found ourselves in Sydney at the Sydney Children's Hospital requiring treatment for Helen, because there was no cancer centre at that time in Queensland that were treating little ones.
And whilst that would never be a nice thing to hear, back in the mid-1970s, Professor Haber, I presume a diagnosis of childhood leukemia was quite a horrible thing to have.
Yes, in the mid-1970s. Actually, by then the survival rates were about 50%, but that was already an incredible increase on the survival rates over only 10 or 15 years earlier than that, when in the early 1960s the childhood cancer, and particularly acute lymphoblastic leukemia, was a death sentence. Every child who was diagnosed died of the disease, and it had been during about a 10 to 15 year period in the early 1960s through to the 70s that there was the advent of modern combination chemotherapy, and that had pushed the survival rates already dramatically up to about 50%, but that still meant that 1 in every 2 children were dying. So for Jack's family at that time and other families like him, that would have been a terrible thing to hear.
I'll talk with Professor Haber in a couple of seconds about those improved survival rates through till today. So, Jack, how did we go from the thankful story that your daughter Helen survived through to having a Children's Leukemia and Cancer Foundation, which is now the Institute?
Well, Adam, when we arrived in Sydney, of course, we had nowhere to stay near the hospital. There was no Ronald McDonald House in those days. There was little support for families. There was little or no research, and we had little understanding of childhood cancer. So a group of parents and doctors in 1976 came together, and out of that was born the Children's Leukemia and Cancer Foundation, which today, of course, we know as the Children's Cancer Institute Australia. It was in 1977 that Apex Australia raised $1.3 million for our organisation, where we were able to build the first stage of our research centre, which we opened in 1984.
And we're looking to make more money, of course, for that organisation this weekend. You can go to Balmoral Ocean Swim on any of your search engines if you'd like to enrol or sponsor someone else who is swimming. When it became the foundation, the Institute proper, you were one of the first 3 staff members, the first sort of research inaugural scientist at the foundation in 1984, Professor Haber. From then until now, I was so heartened to read the other day, the survival rates for things like leukemia are up in the 90% now.
Yeah, it's been a remarkable success story. I often describe it as probably one of the greatest miracles of modern medicine, that you can take a disease that has a cure rate of 0 in the 1950s and see 90% of children being cured only 50 or 60 years later. It is remarkable.
And from what I understand, in a host of different childhood cancers, put very basically, childhood cancers are often reasonably simple diseases because they've affected someone so early in life, as opposed to the cancers adults might get, which may be quite complicated or multi-causal. We're getting really impressive survival rates in a large range of childhood cancers, aren't we?
Yes. So acute lymphoblastic leukemia is probably one of the most outstanding successes and the best survival rates. Overall, about 75% of children are now being cured. The corollary of that, of course, is that 1 in 4 children are still dying of their disease, and the ones that do survive still have, there's a very substantial price of cure, and many of these children are left with lifelong side effects from the intensity and the way in which the normal tissues in the body are damaged from the chemotherapy. So there's still an extraordinary amount of work to be done to save that other 25% and to give them a better quality of life. But in terms of a wonderful improvement through medical research, you don't see it any more than you do in something like childhood acute lymphoblastic leukemia.
Which is why it's important to still keep the fundraising going. Jack, you must be happy each year when you hear the Balmoral Ocean Swims coming around. You know that hundreds of people will be down there this weekend having a paddle and trying to raise some money for the Institute. To think that it all came from the experience of yourself and other people just over 30 years ago.
Adam, can I just pay tribute to our early doctors and scientists that were with us in the beginning, but I also want to pay tribute to the many families who are experiencing the same difficult circumstances that we were, that decided never to give up, but to try and do everything we possibly can to make sure that every child has an equal chance of surviving this terrible illness in children. And today, the Balmoral Swim, which is to take place on Sunday, Tony and Arena and all the team are a perfect example of how the community has also come together to make sure that we have the funds available to provide for our scientists and doctors to continue the great work that they are doing. I mean,
you're absolutely right, Jack. It's a fun day. I was there last year. I'm really looking forward to being there again this weekend. The swim kicks off at 10 o'clock. You can enrol on the day at the venue up until 9:30 a.m. or just look for Balmoral Ocean Swim on any of your major search engines. And if you've got someone who's a friend who's doing the swim, you can't get down there yourself, throw a few dollars their way. Professor Haver, keep up the fantastic work.
Thank you so much.
No trouble at all. And Jack, it's our pleasure to help in any small way we can this weekend. Thanks for telling us your story this morning, Jack Cassis.
Thank you so much for what you do, Adam.
Jack Cassis there and Professor Michelle Haver. It's this Sunday we're taking on the Balmoral Ocean Swim. Gee, treacherous conditions, Balmoral. When that tide comes in. Hey! This Sunday from 10 o'clock, search for the Balmoral Ocean Swim on your search engine. We'll cross to Hay after the news and finance to see how the floodwaters there are being handled by the local community. News time.